through the application of critical discourse analysis. Now, the understanding of critical discourse analysis is beneficial for you because in the next semester you are writing your dissertation. And when you write your dissertation, then you need to apply some theoretical perspective, theoretical viewpoint. And for that, you require some methodology, and critical discourse analysis can be one such methodologies that you can apply to a literary text. And the text can be of any nature. You can analyze a set of poems, you can analyze a novel, you can analyze short essays, you can analyze a drama. So the good thing about critical discourse analysis is its eclectic approach. So it is not something that is fixed, something that is very rigid. The important thing in critical discourse analysis is that you need to take care of critical reading. And when I use this word critical, that means that you need to read a text closely and carefully. And when I say that critical discourse analysis is quite eclectic, that means you also need to understand that critical discourse analysis is like an umbrella, and under that umbrella you have various methods that you can use. One thing that is important in critical discourse analysis is that you need to take care of language issues that are associated with the text, juxtaposing other methods such as methods from anthropology, sociology, social psychology, cognitive psychology, literary theory, philosophy of language and communication, sociolinguistics, to mention a few. Otherwise, you can take any valid method under critical discourse analysis. And and why this critical discourse analysis is so popular? Because any text that you study, we all know that it is situated in a context. And if it is situated in a context, then it is the part of a social context of discourse. So it is not a textual reading in isolation, but but a holistic but a holistic reading that you undertake while taking care of critical linguistics as well as the functions the specific text perform, and the rules of discourse in social practices that are mentioned in a particular text. So this is how this critical discourse analysis is important. And if you are interested in applying critical discourse analysis to any work, I will share few introductory books that will be immensely helpful for you to analyze a text. In the last class, we were looking at this poem titled Virtue, and first we were looking at the issues which are related to linguistics. So we were looking at some aspects that are related to language, and we have seen that there are certain words in this poem. They indicate that this poem is uh, this poem is not a recent development. So you are assuming that you are reading a text blindly. You do not know who is the author, and even you do not know who is the writer. For that purpose, also critical discourse analysis is quite useful. But here, because this is a very famous poem, a didactic poem by George Herbert titled Virtue, and we find some words where their spelling is different. There are certain issues related to archaic words that we have seen, and there are certain words which are hyphenated and which we do not use now. For example, tonight is hyphenated to hyphen night, but now we use tonight as one word. So these issues we looked at, and we found that there are various examples of obsolete spelling that we have. There are examples of archaic words like thou, thy, ye. Then, then also this focuses on the historical development of the English spelling system. And it is not only the spelling system, but the spelling system corresponds to, uh, in a certain manner, to the sound system. So we also know that certain words which were pronounced differently few centuries back, now they are pronounced in a different manner. So we can't simply look at the spelling system in isolation, but we also need to keep the thing, the pronunciation part, how certain words are pronounced uh, uh, when we are analyzing this view. Then we have seen the rhyme scheme, and we have also discussed that how we ascertain the rhyme scheme of a poem. So it's like something that is in majority will become the rhyme scheme of this poem. So that will become the meter of this of that poem. So like rhyme scheme, as you can see that AB is there, but when it comes to meter, then you find that it is iambic. It's iambic tetrameter. So you have 4 feet in each line, and they are in majority. We have seen that last line is in iambic diameter, though in all the four stanza, but majority is iambic tetrameter. So 4 feet in each line that you have. We have also seen the gradual progression of this poem, personification of day, personification of a season, spring, personification of a flower that we have seen, and why these personifications done by the writer? Because these things are mortal as compared to the virtue, and that is the view of the writer, that only the virtue is everlasting, and writer says that only a sweet and virtuous soul, like seasoned timber, never gives, but though the whole world turn to coal, then chiefly lives. So this is the difference, that sweet day must die, sweet rose must die, sweet spring must die. Even human beings must die. But what will live forever, according to George Herbert? Virtuous soul. Now, virtuous soul is again something, a constructed thing, something that is not natural. So, natural soul, you can consider like a soul of a child, that is a natural. But that's not the case. But as soon as we or gradually when we grow up, then uh, we 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 become more mature, and there are lots of changes we undertake and we notice in ourselves. So and that is the constructed nature of the virtuous soul that we have seen. So when we look at the poem, we find that the complexity gradually increases, and how this complexity gradually increases through the use of multisyllabic words. In stanza 1, we have only one multisyllabic word. In stanza 2, we have three. In stanza 3, we have four multisyllabic words, and in stanza 4, we have five. So, though it's a very simple poem using monosyllabic words, but there is also a gradual progression in the number of multisyllabic words when we start reading from stanza 1 and when we reach to stanza 4. Then we have also seen how the tone of this poem is set. And in order to set the tone of a poem, then the use of sound is very important. So you must focus on the sound, what type of words are used. And as I said, like the words, you can't treat them in isolation, but they corresponds to certain sounds. So you also look at the sounds, and we find that a lot of sibilant sound they are used, sibilant consonant sounds they are used in first line. And we know the nature of the sibilant sound. They have this hissing quality, and this hissing quality is it creates a relaxed and melancholic tone that we have seen. At the same time, we have also seen that there is no action in line 1 and line 2. So again, when there is some action, then the action will go against the melancholic tone. So you can see how the melancholic tone is created, how the relaxed tone is created, and also action action words, chiefly verbs, they are omitted. So this is a very careful thing, though unconsciously done by the writer mostly, but sometimes writers they take care of this thing very well. They keep this thing in mind that there should not be a mismatch in the choice of words and how they correspond things. Then a lot of allusion that is also there. And for 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 the knowledge of allusions, you need to know the myths that are related to Christianity, Greek myths, particularly when you are reading English literature. So here the dew shall weep thy fall tonight. Now this word fall is the catchword, and it gives you insight about the humankind's fall through the original sin. And the last line is like an imperative command, like thou means you, so you must die. And you, as we know the nature of you, it can be used for singular, it can be used for plural. So here if it is an imperative command, and it is if it is applicable for one human being, then you can assume that it is applicable for all human beings, so all must die. So this meaning that we have here. We have also seen how the tone is changed when the writer uses the word angry and brave. But again, this choice gives you some insight into how these harsh sounds are used, and how these harsh sounds they are in contrast with the melancholic and relaxed tone in the stanza 1. But again, you also need to focus on that these words angry and brave, because how can Rose be angry, and how can a rose be brave? Because these type of adjectives generally used for human beings, we have seen that there is a personification. But still, how valid this use is, that rose is angry, or uh, rose color is angry, and uh, and and brave, like whose hue means color, whose hue angry and brave. So how come uh, color be brave? So these are the questions that are very much obvious here, and that you can also notice that how can color be angry. Okay, you can compare red with anger, because we have lots of idioms and proverbs where red is equal to anger, so that is quite valid. But brave, so how can you justify sweet rose? Because there are different types of roses that we have: white rose, pink rose, black rose. But the general color that comes into your mind when you think about a rose, that is of red. And you have a poem like "My love is like a red, red rose." So those associations are always there. So angry here. So you need to look at the historical development of English words and their meaning. And we find that in the 17th century, angry signifies inflamed, and while brave having a fine or splendid appearance. So again, the meaning of brave that we consider now is or was not in the 17th century. So now it's very well understood like why the writer has used whose hue, angry and brave. Now again, with these words, with harsh sounds, uh, we have these words. They contradict with the relaxed melancholic tone of the first stanza, but also in the second line we have this plosive break in the iambic meter. So again, here there is a change in the meter, and opposite to iambic is your trochaic. So trochaic is your stressed unstressed, whereas iambic is your uh, unstressed stress. So bits, it gets stressed, and the unstressed bits, the rash grazer wipe his eye, the root is ever in its grave. Again, a fine blending of life and death with this, thy root is ever in its grave, and thou must die. Because grave again associates collocates with death, and we know that when there is a reference to grave, that means writer is talking about dying or death. But one thing that is common in stanza 1 and stanza 2, that is the abrupt ending. Again, this monosyllabic words are used, abrupt ending, and it's an imperative command that all must die. In stanza 3, we find that ye, and ye is an example of archaic word, and the meaning is the plural thou, that my music shows you have your closes. Again, this closes is like closing a chapter of life, that type of close you can consider, or end of something. So we have different seasons, so one season ends, another season starts. So similarly, sweet spring full of sweet days and roses. Now you may cross question that full of sweet days and roses. So with sweet spring, days will go because in a season you have so many days. But why roses? Now there is a mismatch, or you try to cross question like sweet spring, because in the spring season you have different flowers, not only roses, you have different flowers, and they bloom, and then so there is always uh, a progression in greenery that you find in spring. But here it specifies very clearly a sweet spring full of sweet days and roses. So again, a bit like why only roses? You can think of like it will be a progression of stanza 2, because in stanza 2 we have roses, and writer has not come out from that image that he has used. So that's why full of sweet days and roses. A box where sweets compacted lie. Now it's like a box. Generally, during Diwali season, we give each other sweets in a box when we meet someone. So it's like a greeting, wishing a festival, and also giving sweets. So that type of image, Sweet Spring is compared to a box where sweets compacted lie. My music, now music can be this poem also. My music shows like writer is including the autobiographical element. My music shows you have your closes, you have your closes, and all must die. So again, it's like uh, writer is like a fortune teller, and writer is making a prediction that my poem shows that all have that you have your closes, and all of you must die. So that thing is there. And in the last, only a sweet and virtuous soul, like seasoned timber never gives. but though the whole world turned to coal, then chiefly lives. Um, so then chiefly lives. Then there is an idea, like idea of an afterlife that we have. Like though this mortal body will turn into coal, but the soul uh, will remain. And this idea we also find in Plato's dialogue of Phaedo, and in the dialogues, Phaedo is talking to Socrates, and Socrates tells Phaedo that my mortal body will die, but this soul will remain forever. So soul is immortal. So that idea we also have in Greek mythology, and uh, Plato very well expresses in his dialogues, where there is a conversation between two characters, Phaedo and Socrates. So again, something that is good, that will live forever. So something that is good, something that is virtuous, that will remain forever. But again, the comparison that writer is making uh, with this simile, like seasoned timber. So this you will find like seasoned timber is again not something that is permanent, something that is immortal. Then why writer is comparing virtuous soul with a seasoned timber? Because seasoned timber is something that is constructed. So you also need to construct your soul if you want to be virtuous. So it will not happen automatically that you are born and once you grow up, then your soul will transformed into virtuous soul. It's not the case. You need to work upon yourself if you want to convert your soul into a virtuous soul. That idea here we have. Then we have one example of epigrammatic writing. And what is epigrammatic writing? Under ellipsis it falls. Here we have never gives. And what is the meaning here? That never gives way to death. So a sweet and virtuous soul never gives way to death. That means ever enduring. That is ever enduring. And for that reason, writer says that the soul chiefly, I'm not talking about sweet rose, I'm not talking about sweet spring, I'm not talking about sweet day. I'm simply talking about sweet and virtuous soul. So it's not only sweet. One more adjective is used, that is virtuous. And as you can see here, only sweet is used because season cannot be virtuous, rose cannot be virtuous, day cannot be virtuous. They are sweet. They are sweet for us. They are pleasant. Here the meaning of sweet is different. That they are pleasant. Rose is pleasant. As it gives us a pleasant feeling. And when we look at this sweet spring, again a pleasant feeling we have. But here the sweet has different meaning. It is not a soul that is pleasant that we have. So what type of meaning that we have? If you can see here, you have the example of homonyms. So how many times the word sweet is used in this poem? So in stanza 1, it is used once. In stanza 2, it is used once. In stanza 3, it is used thrice. And stanza 4, it is again used once. But the meaning differs. Like the first use of sweet in stanza 1, 2, and 3 is same. That means making you feel pleased, happy, and satisfied. So when you look a sweet day, that means you feel pleased. A sweet rose, you feel happy. Sweet spring, you feel satisfied. But only a sweet and virtuous soul. Now here the meaning of sweet is kind, gentle, and friendly in character. That meaning is there with the sweet. So you can see that how one word is used differently. It connotates different meaning. Though in these cases, this word is used as an adjective, but it has different meaning. And the third use of sweets in stanza 3, that is related to something that is sweet to the taste. That meaning we have, where sweets, and here the grammatical category is also changed. It is used as noun, because we know that nouns can be singular and plural. So we have sweets as here, and we know that adjectives can't be pluralized like this in English language. So this information we also have. And one more information, and this is quite new, that is this chiaroscuro effect. Now, what is this chiaroscuro effect? Chiaroscuro's effect is used in architecture basically, and particularly painters, uh, sketchers generally. They they use the light and shade to create a more meaning to the image. So similarly, with the use of words, writer is creating this chiaroscuro effect. And stanza one, you have day, and day is bright. Then earth and sky. Again, if we compare this related to heaven and hell, then again, like dark and shade light we have. Then tonight, again dark, and die, death, that is again something that is dark. Then hue, hue, because hue here is angry and brave, so it's bright. Then bids the rash gazer wipe his eye, so it's like um, sometimes if you see uh, a very something very bright, something very shiny, then you just wipe your eyes. So that feeling is bids the rash gazer wipe his eye. So again, the image of light is there. Then grave is again dark, death is again dark, that you have. Then spring and days, they are light. Then box and lie, that is again dark. Close is something dark. Die is again dark, that you have. Coal is dark, and lives, that is again bright. So that shade, like shade and brightness, is there in entire poem. And this chiaroscuro effect is very much obvious, very much perceptible in this poem, that you can also see. So what we were looking at the linguistic details. Now we can also apply some literary theory to this poem. As I said that critical discourse analysis is quite an eclectic approach that you can apply to any text. So now we are using literary theories or literary perspective by two giants of literature. One is Wordsworth. Now, Wordsworth defines poetry as the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origin from emotion recollected in tranquility. Now, if you consider Wordsworth's definition or Wordsworth's theory, then you find that every piece of writing is more like autobiographical. So if every piece is autobiographical, then there is a problem that that is not literature, uh, because according to T.S. Eliot, poetry is not a turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. It is not the expression of personality, but an escape from personality. So that is also there. And both the ways, like when you analyze, you can take either the lens of Wordsworth, that writer is addressing us, and writer has felt these things, and writer is giving us this warning that you must die, all must die. My music, my means like my poem shows you have your closest. That is this Wordsworthian version, like the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. But at the same time, you can also apply that poetry is not a turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. Then my music will be the music of spring. That means all the things that occur during the spring, that is the music. And since we have seen that there is a personification, so spring is talking about itself, that my music shows, like look at me, spring will not be forever. After spring you will have different season. So that is also one way. So if you analyze it that way, that means poetry is not a turning loose of emotion but an escape from emotion. So both the ways are available, the theoretical perspectives are available, and you can apply that. So I stop here. This is for the day, and if you have any doubt or question, you can ask me.